home. So you're in a reception in a restaurant, or you're in the reception of a hotel. You're not going to put your feet on the desk, on the table, and you're watching the TV as if you're in your sitting room, right? So people wouldn't like that. I've seen cases where some people are they're in the not waiting room. There's a public place where you can sit down in a hotel, right? And some people have taken off their shoes, put their feet on the table, and their hand behind them, they're watching the news and like, hey, this is not your sitting room. You don't do things like that. Then when you talk about dining environments, you're in a restaurant. I have literally seen people, and I've done videos on it as well, where they've given you a napkin, it's for your hands. Wipe your hands down because you're about to eat. Then guess what happens? You see them using the same napkin to wipe their face, to wipe their hair. I've seen them do this. I'm like, oh, this is not the bathroom. So it's really about perception and how you want people to see you when you're in a public place.
When in the public, it is important to be courteous and respectful of others. You might not always know the rules, but if you make a genuine effort to be considerate of others with the intent not to disturb them, the conscious effort would show.
For me, I would love to see an environment where when we see something that is not right, we correct. I've done that severally, and I'm brave enough to do that. And most times when I finish speaking to the person says sorry, because maybe at the time they were doing it, they didn't realize how bad it was and the consequences to another person. But most times you find that they are truly sorry because it just didn't come down to that.
The rules of behavior when we're in public vary from culture to culture.
If you've ever been to Singapore and you're in a public train or any public environment, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum. And they made it a law. And so now people are very conscious. Don't chew chewing gum, you get fined, you can be imprisoned. So they've made it part and parcel of their life.
However, culture is an ever-evolving phenomenon that changes as the needs of the people changes. We all have rights, but it has limitations where the exercise of your rights begins to infringe on the rights of others. Behaviors such as playing music or videos loudly on your phone in public, receiving calls loudly in public places, or even blowing horns arbitrarily can be seen as offensive. Here are some common etiquette to take note of in public. Offer up your seat. If you're in perfectly good health, offer your seat to anyone who is either in poor health or pregnant. Make commuting easier for those who need it. Let the waiter come to you. Never yell or wave your hand at a waiter while dining. Make their job easier by being patient or politely get their attention when they pass by. Know your audience. Be aware of who's around before engaging in hot topics. Respecting people's sensibilities is the proper way to behave. Make sure to tip. Tipping is essential for certain employees to make a decent income. Make sure to leave a tip as a token of your gratitude whenever possible, even services you might not think of like a haircut or dog grooming. Say excuse me. It's the polite thing to do when you bump into someone. Even if you're not really the one to blame, why not just avoid conflict and brush off the situation? Use a coaster. Spilling isn't the only way to make a mess with your cold beverage. Say please and thank you, especially to those closest to you. Smile at the cashier, the bank teller, the security man, your co-worker, even if he or she doesn't smile back. Hold the door for the person behind you, and if someone holds the door for you, remember to say thank you. Step outside to answer your phone calls. Sometimes you have to take an important call. It is important to step outside to take your call because it's not fun to hear your conversation when we're trapped behind you in a line. Give people a pass. Cranky salesperson, nasty driver, you have no idea what's going on with that person right now. You don't have to reward ugly behavior with your own nastiness, which only perpetuates the cycle. Look at the person who's speaking to you. It is polite to listen to people who are talking to you and not just type away on your smartphone. Let someone go in front of you in line. Cough or sneeze into your elbow. Put your smartphone away during meals. Be on time. Ask before posting. Not everyone wants to be all over social media, and you're not a reporter, so stop spreading the news. Keep the noise down at work. Silence the ringer on your phone. Speak quietly and turn the sound down on your dinging emails so it's not bugging everyone you work with. Wash your hands after using the bathroom. Park your shopping cart on the side of the aisle. Ask permission to use someone's first name. Clean up after yourself, at home, at work, at a friend's house. Ask before bringing a guest. Don't assume they're automatically invited no matter how well you know your host or hostess. Stay at home when you're sick. Reach out to people who are grieving. Don't pretend nothing happened. If you don't know what to do or say, you can simply say you're sorry. Let people get off the elevator first before you get on. The same rules apply to trains and buses. Silence your smartphone at the movies and stop crinkling that candy wrapper so loudly while you're at it. Help someone who's clearly struggling. The next time you see someone straining to reach something on the highest shelf at the grocery store, help him or her out. Skip controversial or nosy topics at parties. Politics, religion, or asking when they're getting pregnant or how much weight they lost. Those topics are sensitive and should be off the table. When you enter a room, greet everyone. Return calls. If someone takes the time to leave you a voicemail, take the time to call him or her back. Use an earphone or headphone in public while scrolling through social media.
You may want to ask why murals are important. It is no secret that murals make neighborhoods beautiful. They add color to building walls and streets which would otherwise go unnoticed. They are a treat for locals and tourists alike. Murals have been part of Nigeria's cultural landscape for thousands of years. The term mural became popular with the Mexican muralism art movement. The transformation which took place in the history of mural art during the 1920s and 1930s was highly influenced by the government's sponsorship in Mexico. The Mexican president Alvaro Obregón began a nationalist cultural program in the 1920s. As part of this program, the Mexican Ministry of Education and other government entities to create public murals. In Lagos, the visual effects of wall paintings are an excitement to attract public attention to social issues like the ones here under the Falomo Bridge. An artist, Poli Alakija, created these murals on the columns in homage to the Bring Back Our Girls, the 276 schoolgirls who were abducted on April 14, 2014 by Boko Haram. We speak to an artist, Ebenezer Omole, a 34-year-old who started off as a child and has been painting for many years. This is one of the locations where he has some of his works. He explains the processes involved.
There's a way I blow this color. When you look close to it, you see as if it's flowing down, it's flowing down. So I have to follow the flowing down, then blow it both left and right. So in order to make it creative, so that it won't just go down straight, but go left, right, and zigzag. Then we have pools, music. So I just did an artwork that will speak for this place, because this is a restaurant. So I did those backgrounds, so to speak. So anybody coming inside, looking at this place alone, so they will know that you like. Moroa is very interesting, and I used to say it. No painting is complete without an artwork like this. So for your painting to come out well, so you need to add some artistic to it so that will make it more, because a lot of people in the world, they cherish artwork. Now, for example, now, this is lion. A lion represents our king. And the writing here, so it's all about this place, because this restaurant is not just a restaurant, it's a reggae restaurant. So that's why we have most of the color here, reggae color.
Ebenezer further explains that murals are a mode of expression for artists in every graphic style imaginable, abstract, photorealistic, expressionist, to name just a few.
Anyone who is into painting and had a mural painting into his work, will get more job than just ordinary painting. No matter how bad situation a building have, when you design it with artistic, even though if it is hot or old building, when you paint it well with this mural artistic painting, it adds more value to the building, and it make Lagos look more beautiful than
As a community centerpiece, the wall painting gets a new dimension as a powerful visual communication tool meant to promote the opinion of the people and transmit social and political messages towards unity. Murals bring art into the public space, and because they occupy public spaces, are accessible to everyone regardless of class, education, or ethnicity.
Cardoso made this known at the Arnold Bankers Dinner and 60th anniversary of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, in Lagos State. The former Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget in Lagos said the previous administration pumped 10 trillion naira into quasi-interventionist activities that were not the areas of strength of the Apex Bank. He said events in the past few years have not portrayed the Apex Bank in good light. He settled the CBN has strayed from its core mandate and engaged in quasi-fiscal activities through different initiatives in sectors ranging from agriculture, power, and many others. Now, these clearly distracted the bank from achieving its own objectives and took it to areas where it had limited expertise. Furthermore, the Apex Bank chief said commercial banks in the country will be directed to increase their capital base as they do not currently have sufficient capital relative to the finance system needs in servicing a $1 trillion economy. On the show today, we'll keep our eye on the CBN macroeconomic policies, banks recapitalization, and lots more. Welcome to Business Insights and Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. Now, in the wake of the biting effect of inflation and its impact, Nigerians have been advised to invest in real estate as it is the best way to shore up economic losses. The convener of the Go Real Pro, Jane Onwumere, said this at the opening of a 2-day real estate network marketing business mastery conference. Details now.
First quarter of 2024, I'm going to do XYZ with this particular affiliate.
This conference is not just about teaching. It is about empowering anyone who wants to be a professional networker and those who want to learn digital and network marketing, among others.
Not everybody is a salesperson. Not everybody is a network marketer. Not everybody, with all due respect to all the other topics, everything is important. But I believe that everybody should be, regardless of your profession, regardless of your field of endeavor, everybody should be interested in personal development.
But if you would embody the energy of a big time closer, you will close even without speaking to anybody. And somebody says, I want to close with this particular person. They will call your name.
What is your reason for doing digital marketing? Who are your target audience in digital marketing? Now, on the internet, there are various people you meet. There are people you want to make relationship with today and probably do a business transaction with them in future.
We catch up with the convener, Jane Onwumere. She reveals plan to officially unveil a startup grant of 1.5 million naira to 5 million naira to over 120 persons to enable Nigerians and Africans kickstart their journey to becoming real estate professionals.
I saw what we call estate agents, always quarreling over commission, always fighting over, I brought this customer, I did this. And I said to my husband that we can give this thing a professional look. That agents don't have to fight if we make this thing professional. So that's what gave birth to what is today known as the real estate network marketing business.
She also bears her mind on current economic issues, specifically as they concern real estate development in the country and the way forward.
So if you invest money carefully into real estate, it's something that will eventually come back again and give you back value. You understand? So really, together, we will solve the housing problem. And that's what we are going to be explaining tomorrow evening when we get to that part of this program. We are going to be talking to people about how we can collectively confront the housing problem.
Onwumere reveals that the industry must continue to develop more entrepreneurs because there are some gaps that need to be filled if more Nigerians are to become home owners. Welcome back now. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria and inroads made at the weekend by the Central Bank Governor Yemi Cardoso, and he has said that his predecessor pumped 10 trillion naira into quasi-interventionist activities that were not the areas of strength of the Apex Bank. How do you reason this aberration? What exactly went wrong?
Okay, thanks for having me again. The speech of the central bank governor, the new central bank governor, was quite interesting. It was extremely engaging and was something that everybody that plays in the financial sector would need to pore over and run through. There was a lot of messaging, and then there were also some things that were not said, but that were kind of alluded to. That it's important that the markets understand. Talking about the activities of the CBN prior to his assumption of this office, describing those activities as an aberration may not be entirely correct, and I am a bit concerned at what appears to be an attempt to demonize the central bank. We have to remember that the central bank is a mandate, got distracted, and all of those things may not necessarily be true. So if you look at the things that the central bank was doing with a lot of the policies of the former CBN governor, I think a lot of his policy actions were a big problem for the economy. But I don't think one of those problems was the interventionist activities of the CBN. I think those activities were necessary, given where the Nigerian economy is today. The Nigerian economy is in a crisis. I mean, we have to recognize this. We're in an economic crisis that can be likened to a situation of a country at war. It's that serious. Inflation is out of control. Exchange rates, volatility is out of control. You are having 30-40% swings in the value of your currency within a matter of days. This is an aberration. There is no economy that can survive that kind of volatility, right? So these things have been in our situation for a while. When you run an economy in crisis, interventionist activities by central banks is not an aberration, it's not unusual. And I can give you examples. During the COVID pandemic, 2020 and 2021, all central banks across the entire world, the Federal Reserve, the UK Bank of England, the EU Central Bank, the various country central banks did provide financial intervention programs to fund and boost development and growth, because economies were suffering from potential decline into recession on the back of the decline in economic activity during the COVID pandemic. That's one example. Central banks got directly involved in creating funds and providing those funds to households, to businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large corporations. The central banks in those countries provided that. You can go back as well to 2007, 2008, the global financial crisis. The central banks across the world provided bailout funds. So this thing that the CBN was doing under Emefiele in the last 3-4 years, the Anchor Borrower Program, the various intervention funds to the aviation sector, to the energy sector, is nothing new. In fact, the Central Bank of Nigeria, before Emefiele, 2010, I remember vividly, had a manufacturer sector intervention fund that was specifically targeted at medium-sized manufacturing enterprises that had run into crisis and that had loans that were crippling the banking sector.
All right.
The CBN provided intervention funds to bail those manufacturers out and then to help them revamp their businesses. So when a new CBN governor comes on board and then tries to create the impression that the actions and the activities of the central bank prior to his assumption were abnormal, they are an aberration, they were a distraction, it's not true. It's not true at all. And I wonder what the objectives are. I think what we need to see is the central bank today providing policy direction for the entire economy, monetary and otherwise, to lift us out of the problems that we're seeing now, to curtail inflation as a matter of urgency, and to at the same time boost growth. Those two objectives are very difficult to balance, but they must do it.
All right, Chego, let's still examine some of the things that he said specifically concerning inflation and other macroeconomic, indices. The MPC meetings, he actually talked about that and the outcomes, and he said the outcomes have actually been largely ineffective over time. Right now, headline inflation has surged to 27.33% as at last month's figures. Now, Cardoso said the CBN was well aware of the damage inflation had caused to living conditions and businesses, assuring that a new inflation policy would actually, be taken over time. I just want to get your reactions concerning, his statement concerning the outcomes of the MPC and how ineffective they have been.
Yes, I agree with the Central Bank governor that the MPC interventions via the traditional monetary policy rate instruments to try to manage inflation has been ineffective. And I've been singing this like a canary for the last 1 year. I've been asking the central bank to stop relating with inflation as though it was just a monetary policy issue, a money supply issue alone, because it's clearly not the case in Nigeria today. So yes, the CBN government is absolutely correct that the MPC pronouncements have not, curtailed the inflation effectively over the years. In the last 24 months or thereabouts, we've seen inflation continuing to increase month on month, except for December. So clearly something wasn't working. So he's correct. Now, what will the solution to that be? I found it a bit curious and maybe worrisome that he did not provide a clear statement with regards to what is happening to the NPR or to the MPC in that speech. All he did say was that they are not holding the MPC meetings for 2 consecutive times now is not in contravention of the law. So, but he did not say what would happen. Are they going to maintain the standard practice that we've had with our central banks of having MPC meetings every 2 months as against once a quarter as provided by the law? And having it every 2 months as against once a quarter is obviously also not against the law. That was being done because the central bank realized that the interventions needed to happen more frequently than what the law provided. But you've said you are not breaking the law by not holding the MPC in September and by not holding it in November, but you have not told us when you will hold it. and I think the markets need to have this information.
Right.
So now talking about the inflation management framework that they're coming up with, the market will be waiting eagerly to get the breakdown of what that will contain. Obviously, the NPR must be one of the components of that framework, but we would like to see what the other components would be that might now make the instrumentality of the NPR as a policy instrument more effective. We would have to wait to see that, and it's a good pronouncement from him. But until we see the details, we will not know exactly how it will work.
Okay, now going forward, inadequate foreign exchange supply, depreciation of the exchange rate, limited external reserves, weakened output, and high unemployment have pushed up interest rates, affected asset quality and solvency ratios in the banking sector. Now, Cardoso seems to believe that through targeted policies, in as much as you said that he's not aligned, transparent market operations and coordination between the monetary and the fiscal authorities, we can be assured of a more stable exchange rate, control inflation, and also create enabling environment for businesses.
I found it quite curious that the Central Bank of Nigeria governor spoke about transparency and the importance of transparency to the functioning of especially the foreign exchange markets. All markets, whether they're foreign exchange, financial, capital markets, money markets, whatever kind of market that you're talking about that involves exchange of value, transparency and information flow are very critical components of ensuring that market is efficient and is achieving its objectives. So it's a good thing that the governor has said that. But what I found also quite curious is the central bank continues to push out information about happenings in the foreign exchange markets without providing adequate information to explain how it is happening. The how is as important as the act itself to ensure that market players can plan. They understand what is happening and why it is happening. So if the CBN says, for example, that backlogs are being cleared, with banks, with the issue of forward contracts and all of that, and with the issue of maybe the airline backlogs, if the CBN says on a week-by-week basis we're clearing these backlogs, I think it is absolutely critical that the CBN provides the how. Because if you do not provide the how to the market, then they cannot independently determine what direction the market will go in. If the how is unsustainable, then the gains that we see in the price, in the valuation of our currency will be temporary. And that will have very damaging effects in terms of long-term, medium-term, and long-term planning for the players in the market. So, yes, the CBN governor is absolutely correct about transparency, but he needs to walk the talk and not just talk it alone. The CBN has been pumping out information without providing the basis of that information. Where is this liquidity coming from? Because we all know, the market.
All right, so very quickly, for sake of time, now let's just finalize on the recapitalization. In 2004, commercial banks were asked to recapitalize from 2 billion to 25 billion naira. Remember the mergers, marriages of misfits, and a whole lot of that came out of all of that. Now, 19 years on, there are plans for banks to boost their capital base to meet with the expectations of a growing economy. I just want to quickly get your thoughts concerning this recapitalization for commercial banks.
Well, I mean, look, if you want to grow your economy to a 1 trillion naira economy in about 4 or 5 years, there is nothing wrong with saying that your financial systems must also be stronger, must develop the capital capacity to fund and drive that growth. So asking for a recapitalization is not necessarily a bad thing. I think what would be very critical, like the CBN governor has said, we have stability in the banking sector in particular at the moment. What you don't want to do is to rock the boat. So whatever the approach, the implementation approach for this capitalization exercise is very critical. Number one, you don't want to do it in a rushed manner. Number two, you want to allow the players in the industry to have a significant say in how they go about achieving this recapitalization. So regulation must provide guidance rather than compel action. And I think if we do that, then we will definitely achieve the gains that the CBN governor spoke about and we'll be trying to achieve.
So any challenges on the part of the commercial bank themselves in terms of mergers, acquisitions, or any other ways do you want to go about that?
Absolutely. You know, it's capitalization would happen either by virtue of mergers, acquisitions, or by raising of new capital. Whichever one of those options that you look at, it's not going to be a walk in the park. Depending on the quantum of increase, the quantum of change that the CBN will be imposing on the banking industry, it might be easy and it might not be so easy. What we would expect, we probably will be seeing some further consolidation in the sector as a result of this. And, you know, I cannot, for the life of me, see anything wrong with that. I think that's good. I think stronger banks are good to create a strong economy. And hopefully guidance would also be provided by the CBN to ensure that that strength in the banking sector is transmitted down the bottom of the pyramid to the poorest of the poor in the economy.
All right, thank you so much, Segun. We'll just have to let you go because we are completely out of time. Segun Sogbito is the principal partner at Wood Regents Court Consulting. Many thanks for being a part of the show.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's the size of the show for today. I am Justin. Academia Business Insights returns to your screen same time. Bye for now.
Child protection is an ancient, long-standing problem which has gained the attention of the international, national, state, and local communities, with governments, international donor agencies on the forefront of a high-profile commission to eradicate it. The unique dynamics of child sexual abuse such that it's often committed in secrecy with only the victim and the perpetrator as witnesses. And it's a crime that is very difficult to detect, and it takes a long time before the abusers, before the crime is revealed. And the grooming strategies of the pedophiles include, number one, engagement of the child, overcoming the child's resistance, inculcating secrecy into the child, intimidating the child, suppressing the child to maintain control over the child. There are 5 key steps you need to know as an adult, as an educator, to be able to provide child protection to any child within your vicinity. Number one, you need to learn the facts. Child sexual abuse can be contactual or non-contactual. It can involve outright defilement. It can involve exhibitionism, touching a child inappropriately, or exposing the child to pornography. And you need to know the different ways children disclose. They can disclose to you directly if they trust you, but even in that, they may not give you the full details. Then there could be accidental disclosure in normal day-to-day conversation. Then there can be indirect disclosure. The child may pretend that it happens to another child because he's ashamed, he or she is ashamed and should be shamed and should be blamed. And then you need to reduce the opportunity for it to occur. You don't leave children alone physically or digitally. These days, the world has turned to a global village. You need to monitor their internet spaces. You need to know about digital empathy as an educator. A child may be innocently browsing to do the homework, and the pornographic site may drop in, and the child will be ashamed to seek for help, which may traumatize the child. Then you need to know children's digital footprint. You may give your child a name and get another name online, on Facebook, TikTok, on Instagram. And then you need to know how to talk about a sex education. You don't wait for a child to be grown. From age 2, you tell the children about their private parts. Call it the way it is. Tell the boy, this is your penis. Tell the girl, this is your vagina. Don't call it wee wee bum bum. Don't give it names, because a lot of children will be taken advantage of. And then you know these pedophiles, they crack risky jokes and say, my wife, they dabble into favoritism. They can be treating the child as an adult. Then you need to reduce the opportunity for it to occur. You need to learn the signs. There are short-time signs like bruises, wounds, rashes in the mouth and the genital areas. You see teenage pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, you see sexually transmitted infection. But the long-term consequences that schools of thought and advanced childhood experiences is what is affecting the nation as a whole. It's the children that have been abused that did not receive help, that are in conflict with themselves, with the society. You see suicidal addiction, you see depression, you see poor interpersonal relationship skills, poor academic performance, occupational failures, compulsive eating disorders, hormonal imbalance, infertility, you see depression, post-traumatic stress disorders. And above all, you need to know how to react responsibly. If a child confides in you, you don't react vehemently. You don't go and confront the perpetrator. Otherwise, you contaminate evidence or endanger yourself. You need to know about the Lagos State Government Witness Protection Policy. You need to instill confidence in the child. Tell the child, thank you for telling me. Psychological first aid, I'm sorry this happened to you, but I need to help you. And you don't ever promise a child, I will not tell anybody. But you need to tell the child, number one, we need to get you medical attention for medical treatment and evaluation. And number two, you need psychosocial support because you are traumatized and none of any families are traumatized. And then we need to inform law enforcement, the police, because pedophiles are criminals. Their security risks, they need to be taken off the street. They do not pose dangers to other children. Access to justice is part of the healing therapy. And if both parents are not able to support the child, let the child know you need shelter services, safety plans. You need to be relocated from the offending environment to regain your sense of safety. We have the very first children's telecommunication number 0800 801, through which children can call to receive professional counseling, information, care, emergency intervention, and referral pathways. The Lagos State Government is committed to ensuring child protection. We have the Quality Assurance Department of Ministry of Education. If it happens in school, we have the Ministry of Youth and Social Development, who are interested in the welfare of the children for placement in shelters and orphanages. We have the prosecutorial unit, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. We have the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, with a formidable interagency collaboration among all the agencies. Our belief is that adults are responsible for protecting children, not children protecting themselves. Children cannot protect themselves because of their cognitive and vulnerability. And there's no way a child can give his or her consent to sex, and there should be no shaming and blaming. Parents who don't have time to listen or to take care of their children are guilty of child neglect, which is an offense, and it opens the door for pedophiles because there are no benchmarks or indices to identify a pedophile. Pedophiles' strategies include earning the trust and respect of parents. If a child is hungry, they offer food. If a child is lonely, they offer companionship. They are like the wild animals in the safari who will study the children to look for a loophole in that life of that children, fill that loophole to maintain control over the child. Some even blame the child, it's your fault. It can never be a child's fault. And a child is anyone under 18 years of age. It doesn't matter if she's already in the university or she's big or whatever. Every child needs protection. Every child is important. Not just our biological children, not just our students, even our domestic staff. They need to be protected. Defilement is life imprisonment, sexual assault by penetration. It's about 7 years. We have a range. Touching appropriately, we have 1 to 1 year, 3 years, depending on the offense that can be established. But the rock bottom is that child sexual abuse is unacceptable and it is preventable. No longer should we allow perpetrators to go on with impunity. And no single agency can do it alone. We need interagency collaboration, the support of community-based organizations, religious and traditional rulers, all to ensure child protection.
welcome to Timeless Conversations today. My guest is a gentleman who is an epitome of altruism. All the while that I've known him, he has always done stuff just for the common good of everybody around him. In fact, to the extent that I see him as Dr. Selfless. I said Dr. Selfless because he's a medical doctor by training. Please welcome with me Dr. Dokun Adedeji. He prefers to be called Dokun Adedeji.
That's right.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We also call him Papa. Now, let's talk about you as the person. As much as possible, I will make you talk about things you don't want to talk about. You don't like being the focus. But how would you not be the focus when you are the firstborn of your family?
Yeah, truly I'm firstborn, but sometimes the firstborn also can be silent in the sense that others outshine him or something. But I've lived my life like this. My kid brothers and sisters looking up to me again, and also my parents having so much trust and confidence in my leadership ability over my kids. And I think that has helped me in other things that I've done, I've been able to do.
Okay. Your family is from Igbaroke.
Yes.
In Ondo State.
Yes.
Were you born there?
I wasn't.
But you also have a very strong connection to Igbaroke.
Oh, yeah.
Igbaroke.
You know, the thing, when my father retired and we were living in Lagos, after a while he got tired of living in Lagos, he moved to Igbaroke, and then my mother joined, and they were living there until they died. So we had no choice than to keep visiting them until my mom died some months ago.
Yes.
So, and they have their house there, which is still there. And we're also close to some of the things they do there. And the current Oba, we're also close to him. So, in a sense, because of my parents, we had to be going regularly, and that was how I got a bit close
to Igbaroke. Now, but let's talk about your family life, your early childhood. What did your dad and your mom do that was useful, helpful in turning you guys out the way you have turned out?
You know, I like that because I'm beginning to see the effect of how we were brought up and what they did on our own current lives and the way we are trying to live our family lives. My father was a banker until he retired during the Murtala Muhammad, some funny things as we learned. And then my mom actually did not work because my father said her responsibility was us. And she also took it like that until when she decided to work, then she was doing just some trading, got involved in a lot of things. So she had time to be with us. My father too managed to find time to go. And banking then, it's not like today. It's like cutthroat and then all kinds of stuff. My father still had time. So whenever he came back, I remember in those days, we would sit down as a family, we were talking generally about things. And those things that we used to talk about had been some sort of the things that have guided the way we all have grown up. About values, about systems, about how people should connect with other people and how they connected with us and how we saw them connecting with just ordinary people.
Okay. So what was the decision to send you to school back in, that was Ado Ekiti?
I remember.
Were you that stubborn?
No, I wasn't. You see, we were living in Lagos. I did all my primary school and all those in Lagos. And my parents felt that they wanted me to have a kind of rural background with education being the primary focus and also the Christian nature of it. So I did a variety of exams, I passed them. When I now decided I was going to go to some particular, they said, sorry, you are going to Christ School, Ado Ekiti. And I think it was the best choice for me as well.
Okay.
And living Lagos, the glamour of Lagos and all the rascality, to then go to Christ School, that was backwater kind of a thing. And then, although again, I got there meeting some friends of mine who also came from Lagos with the same parental leaning that we want you to go somewhere and learn about other people, other things aside from Lagos.
Okay.
So it was fun.
What did that do to you? Apart from the fun aspect of it.
No,
being away for the first time.
Being away for the first time was tough. I remember the first time that we were on holiday, I was to come home. I think my dad couldn't send someone to pick me or something, so I had to come by public transport or something. So for me, it was jarring. Never done that before. And also, what it helped me to do was to meet a lot of people from different backgrounds. And in those days, it doesn't matter whether we were Christian or not. I mean, I met all kinds of people. And also, it allowed me to settle into education, and also gave me the opportunity of going to some extracurricular things that had built my life today. It was a very good experience. So for me, and again, you know, those days, if you were not a doctor
You
or
were a
something,
lawyer or something.
or a lawyer or an accountant, and truly, if I didn't read medicine, I would have read law.
Okay.
And so I decided to read. And again...
So it wasn't like your dad insisted
No,
you
no,
had to
no.
read? Because, you know, it was like in those days, they would say,
no.
this is what you read.
You see, I think my family had been lucky with the kind of parents we had. None of us was mandated or corralled to read a particular, it was by choice. And I think some of the things that guided me, I remember when we were living in Ibadan, and I was to make a choice. I remember my dad's friend, two of them very well. One was Professor Femi Williams. He was pathologist in in UCH. And then I was Professor Shofora, who was also in UCH. And they were my dad's very close friends. They used to come. And I saw Professor Williams. I remember him very well. He would wear black trousers, white short sleeve with a black bow tie. And I liked that. He was very well, I'm very intelligent man. And from school, I passed all this. I just said I was going to read medicine.
So you wanted to become another Femi Williams?
In a sense, in terms of the way it was sartorially presented and very intelligent and very professional.
You also dress very well too, sure you know.
Oh, I thank you.
Yes.
No, people say that, but
Yes.
it's just by nature, I like to be simple, but I like to be, I'm very meticulous about the things that I do, even dressing, even writing, whatever I do. So people find a bit of trouble with that. I was too particular about things, but it's just my nature.
So it's been how many years since you left Ife? I mean, yes, since you went into
medicine.
Medicine, yes.
I left medical school, I think must have been about 38 years now.
Yeah, that's almost 40 years.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And I practiced medicine for quite a while until I got tired, and whilst I was in Cadbury. So, and incidentally, you know, things sometimes work in ways that you don't understand but that you desire. After being in medical practice as a medical director in Cadbury, then I was getting tired of medicine. I said to myself, I would rather do something else. So in the process, Cadbury then had an issue. And then the MD, then a white man, thank God for white men, I mean for this reason, he called me and said, we talked about something in the company because of the issue, all the directors had gone, and they want me to move to human resources, to head human resources. I said to him, hey, I'm a doctor. So he said, no, we know, but we know that you can do it. We will give you all the practical background that you need, experience, and then we'll put you. So he said, okay, they'll come in, let me have an interview with the other directors who are white too. I keep mentioning the white thing because I'm not sure if the MD was black or Nigerian, whether they'll give me that opportunity.
That's a deep one.
Honestly.
We will interrogate it.
Oh, please, let's do. You know why I'm saying so?
Yes.
This was a man, they brought him because he had retired, they brought him from the UK.
Okay.
Wallace Galland. I remember his name very well. Cadbury had problems, some white people had come on the board. Alistair was there, Mike was there, and I think, and also Wallace. So he walked to my office, actually in the clinic. He had been looking for me, I wasn't there. So then he came, he shut the door and said, Doctor, I want us to have a chat. I said, what is it? He said, we've been thinking about something I've discussed with them in headquarters in Birmingham. We want you to become the head of HR. I said, look, I'm a medical doctor by profession. He said, we know, but we have seen things in you that can make you that make us believe that you can handle it. So, but he said what they will do then is try and give me practical background and all this and all the training required. I said, okay. And he said I would think about it, that he will call me. So he got back to me, he called me and said, will I be available for an interview on Friday? I said, okay, fine. Then he called back and said, no, tomorrow. So I met the other directors, two of them, Mike, the other white man, then the South African, white South African, Alistair Gore. So we had the interview, and then 2 days later he called me and said, look, they've agreed that I should be moved to human resources, that if I don't like it, I should let them know I'll come back to medicine.
We'll come back to it. Let me just say that, don't you think that attitude was more from where they're coming from than because of their skin color?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I alluded to white, it was
Yes.
because they were white then.
Well.
I think it's them.
Yeah.
It's just their way, the attitude of giving anybody a chance who can do something. Not necessarily because of the skin color.
Okay, fine.
It is not unlikely that there could be some Nigerians with such disposition, but at that time,